Welcome to the Influence Experiment, where we seek to explore the art and the science of building influential capacity. Every month, we want to raise thought-provoking ideas of how you can be an investor of the influence you carry. If you're ready to journey with us, then it's time to experiment.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Influence Experiment as we continue to learn how to invest our influence well. Well, today we are talking about Christianity in the music industry. Music is a beautiful art. With art, just like everything, comes the elements of the beautiful and the not so beautiful, the redeemed and the fractured, the joyous and the depressive, the moral and the immoral, the hopeful and the hopeless, the secular and the biblical. Music is grafted so deeply into our culture we cannot escape it. If we cannot and aren't called to escape culture, how do Jesus followers live within the depravity of culture while still proclaiming Christ? What are some of the challenges and delights of living in the secular that preaches a different gospel? What are some of the ways someone could proclaim Jesus through their talents like music? So joining me today at the table to talk about this is Chris Crosdale, who happens to be a very dear friend of mine. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Tony.
Dude, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It is a blast to be here. I'm so glad I could join you tonight and talk through this and just have some fun, but also have some serious conversation.
Yeah, no, I think fun and serious conversation is definitely going to happen amidst this. And so, bro, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself,
Sure.
your background, music, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so a crash course on who I am. I grew up in Maryland, actually from the same town region as you. I grew up with two lovely Jamaican parents that migrated back in the 80s and then had me in the 90s. I'm telling you my age. And I grew up in a Christian home. I went to a public school, and then I got transferred into a private Christian school because I was being a bad kid. I came to Christ my freshman year of high school at that private Christian school. And I decided to go to a Bible college because I felt that I was a weak Christian and I didn't know enough about the Bible despite having my parents in school to teach me stuff, but I didn't put that into good practice. So I chose to go to Washington Bible College, and I was there for 3 years, which is where I met you.
Yeah, you did.
And then our school was inherited by Lancaster Bible College, which we both transferred to and continued to forge our friendship. And we both graduated in 2016.
Crazy.
We were also roommates, as you know.
I'm aware. I'm very aware. Actually.
And since college, I've been working on music, but also full-time jobs and life and trying to be an adult away from my parents in Pennsylvania.
For sure.
So, and I released my first song back in 2016, the year that we graduated, and it's been that ever since.
Yeah. Come on, bro. And and also, can you just share a little bit about, give us the genre of music that you kind of do. What's your stage name? Give me a little bit about that as well.
So I do a mixture of hip hop, pop, and R&B. The stage name is Macario, which is Spanish for one who is blessed or one who is made happy from a blessing. And I intentionally chose that name because I wanted the stage name to embody the purpose and intent behind why I do music. And actually found that name on a baby name site, just randomly.
Well, that's great.
But I had been searching for a name. So
and it's also Greek too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, it's for happy and blessed. It's also Greek as well.
Didn't even know that.
Crazy.
So,
I know, right?
Fun facts.
I don't remember much from Greek, but
Okay.
I do remember a little bit of that.
Yeah, so that's the name, and that's the mission and goal behind each song, and the songwriting process, and the whole passion of it.
I love that. No, thanks so much for sharing that. And what a crazy delight for me personally to be able to like watch one of my best friends through college kind of pursue his music career and being like super intentional about wanting to live for Jesus. As we know that the music industry, well, as you know, way more than even I do, but like generally speaking, that there's a secularism within the music industry and culture, and how living a Christ follower's life can be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we want to unpack here and process, knowing that as Jesus followers, we're here to be in the public square and in the marketplace around and to proclaim Jesus. And that doesn't mean we're holed up in the church and we're not in our holy huddles around Christians only. No, we're interacting with the world, and we're interacting with people who don't know Jesus and using our talents to bring glory to Christ and to point people to Jesus. And so part of what I'm really excited about and intrigued about is being able to process some of that with you right now. And so, hey, let me just ask this question before we fully dive in: is who is currently your favorite secular artist, but then as well as your favorite Christian artist?
So this is always a hard question. So the first answer to that question, my favorite secular artist is undoubtedly Michael Jackson. And no one can rival that in this secular space, because he's just incredible. So that's my favorite secular artist for a number of reasons. And he will continue to be unless there's another artist in the future that outdoes him, which probably won't happen. Then my favorite Christian artist is Kirk Franklin. He formed a lot of my youth group dances and summer camps, and I have spent most of my life singing all of his songs. Either in choir or at home or with family. Like, he is probably my favorite. From that space.
I love that. I love that. So good. So like for you, man, like what kick-started your pursuit of music? Like what was the catalyst? What was the trigger? What was the moment?
I'm told this story, and I actually remember doing this. So I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I was hanging out at my grandmother's house in DC with my cousins, and my older cousin, Patrick, hi Patrick, showed me the Thriller video. On it was back then we were watching MTV. I'm dating myself, I guess. And I see this video, and something in me just stirred, and I said out loud, I want to be like Michael Jackson. And I remember spending all of my childhood like doing all his moves. I had pretty much all of his albums. So like that like moment sparked it for me of like I want to entertain and like sing and dance and perform and like use music to inspire other people. Because I saw how he inspired people, and people would like faint at his concerts, and like he had such an influence and impact on pop culture, on pop music. Like he did so much good and some bad, but he's human, and I felt like I was able to see myself being like that. Like, when I grow up, I want to be like
right, of course. All of us
so
as kids.
that is what sparked it for sure. Yeah.
No, that's so cool. And even as you said, like, I want to be like that when I grow up, and like, but now like you're grown up, and this is the industry, this is the field you're in. And what's super cool about that is that you're getting to pursue a passion and a dream of yours, where again you're taking faith and talent and passion, and you're trying to marry them together, right? As what I know of you and what I know of our friendship and what I know of your career, even as I listen to your music on Spotify, and how cool it is to see you pursuing just that, But it kind of also makes me think of this question, which is sometimes some people aren't always the biggest fan of stepping into certain secular spaces, and so a question I guess I would have is, have you felt, or do you still receive any negative messages from other people about pursuing the music industry as a Christian specifically?
Yeah. I would say a mixture of yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, probably in high school and some of college, I got a lot of bad feedback and not that much support because I started out rapping first. Well, that's not true. I started out singing in youth choir and high school choir and at church. And then in college, I started to rap more. And my family and friends weren't big fans of that because rap culture and rap music is a bit more violent and more associated with drug culture or casual sex or things that I shouldn't be involving myself with. Right. So that was rough, just like trying to navigate that and like trying to trust the people in my life that are important to me and value their opinions while also still having this passion and like not exactly seeing real valuable or biblical reasons to quit it per se. And then towards the end of college, it shifted because I started to sing and rap more. And now I sing a lot more than rap. So I think in some ways it's still no, but it's more of a yes now. So it's shifted since high school.
Yeah.
But
and that's fascinating in the sense of that simply going from like more rap to singing can change someone's perspective for good or for bad.
Sure.
But whether like they think it's okay or not as a Christian.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that even that we as Jesus followers need to take a hard look at, like how do we appropriately judge what is okay and what is not okay. There's a lot of gray areas obviously in scripture and what things that are okay or not okay to do. But to be able to not be so quick to say, oh, that looks bad, therefore it is bad. Or, oh, one song is bad, or heck, an album is bad, therefore everything in this genre is bad. Or, knowing that, again, we believe that God redeems and that God can use our brokenness and our talent and our excellence to honor Him and bring Him glory in those fields. And so, no, I think that's really good for us to, again, as Christ followers, to continue to contemplate and how do we do that dance in the gray, which I know that inevitably there's been some dancing in the gray, figuratively and literally, for you as a dancer. But so even in the name of that, like, what are some things from culture and secular music industry that you've wrestled with in being a Jesus follower?
So many things. I would say the biggest thing that kind of is a theme for the smaller things is compromise. It is so easy and so encouraged in this space to like compromise who you are or what you believe or things that you just didn't exactly think you would dabble in or consider. That temptation is rampant, especially for Christians who are trying to make non-Christian music or secular music. It's kind of a target of like, oh, well, you claim that you have faith and you believe in God and you are not like a big fan of these different lifestyle items, but if we catch you in something, then that makes you a hypocrite.
Right.
but at the same time, like being human, it's also very tempting to like not do those things because I want to do those things, or like I don't always see the value in not doing those things because they're so enticing or they're so cool or it's popular. So just like trying to not compromise, but also having the weight of the world's watching you too. It's like you don't get to mess up and then go and heal from it like quietly or privately. It's like on the world stage, oh, this upcoming pop star said this on Twitter, or they cheated on their girlfriend with some like Instagram model, and now like that's out there about you forever,
getting gaslighted and
yeah. So like that's hard.
Sure, no, and even I appreciate you even throwing out the word compromise, because that's a very real thing for you as a Jesus follower in the music industry, but that's also just that's a human thing as a Jesus follower of how do we live in our spaces, whether it is myself being in youth ministry or leadership development in a church, to someone who's a teacher at a public school, to someone who is a stay-at-home mom or dad, or someone who works in the music industry, or someone who's a lawyer. Like there's compromise everywhere we look, and it's terrifying because our flesh is weak, and and you use the word enticing, and I fully agree with that. Like whereas sin and compromise can look really enticing, and so I can only imagine some of those things that you've over the years and even presently still have to process with and wrestle with, and sometimes not do perfectly. Like but coming back to like, hey, how am I going to continue to pursue excellence as deeply as I can, as humbly as I can, while also knowing that, hey, like I can, again, things I can learn from culture and almost steal like from culture, like tactics or dance moves or the things that like it's not bad, and I can utilize those things. And so like, how do I, again, where's that line of how do I not compromise while also still appreciate things that culture does have that can be healthily appropriate, or something like that. And so, no, thanks for speaking into that. I would love to hear, man, where do you get your inspiration from when it comes to writing and composing music?
My muse is a mixture of hanging out with friends, family time, and time alone. And I'm not sure why, but I think I would hope or assume that it's because I do a lot of songwriting based on different experiences or thoughts and feelings during a certain experience. Because music is very artistic and expressive, and I want to use music to express how I feel about something or how I've thought through something. So I like to draw real experiences or real moments to inspire that, instead of it being like a fake story or just like a random topic that I don't have any attachment to. So I would say, social experiences are a lot of the bulk of that.
Oh, and I would even say, like, when you're able to speak from real experience, you're able to dump more raw emotion into it. Like, when it's not yours, you have to, like, try to reach for, like, okay, what's the emotion they're feeling here, or the story, or whatever. But when it's yours, you feel the full gamut of the joy, the ticked offness, to the confusion, to the whatever, right? And so I know that and that's what makes sense why a lot of music comes from personal experiences and moments, or how every single song from T Swift is a breakup song about a guy, which just makes sense. And so, sorry, I love T Swift, I do. So, how about this one? What's kept you tethered to your faith in Jesus in a very secular industry?
I think this ties back to my muse, actually. The people that God has placed in my life. Like, the church I go to and call home, LEFC, my family and friends. Like, having people in my life that are also Christian, that also believe in Christ and want the best for me, but also want and hope for me to be faithful and be disciplined with my faith. Their opinions and inputs and their association with me helps me to not veer too far, of course, or to get like too like puffed up and proud and like, oh, I've made it, or oh, I've arrived. And they quickly humble me.
Yeah.
You guys quickly like check in and like ask the tough questions, or you call out things, and it causes me to wrestle and really reconcile, like, all right, like, I like this thing or I want this thing, but how does this coincide with my faith? And through those relationships and through just like time of just natural life circumstance and growing up and being a bit older now, I have my own personal conviction of like, oh, like there are certain things I can't do, or there are certain things that would not be as helpful or as complimentary to the goal I'm trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that, or that's just wrong in terms of ethical morality.
Sure.
So I'm not going to do that either.
Yeah.
But I do like humbly place a lot of that credit to my tribe of people that like really love me well and know me well enough to like not let me get too crazy or get too like high and mighty.
Sure.
And that is like the biggest help in inspiring me and holding me accountable to like, hey, you claim that you know Christ and you love him, so there's a certain way to live, there's a certain way to think, there's a certain way to like go about your life.
Yeah.
And I take that very seriously.
No, and I love the word you use there, tribe.
Yeah.
I think that's just one, it's just a fun word. Secondly, I think it really does help paint a picture of what as Christ followers, like what we are together. Like, we're a tribe of people that are here to love each other, represent each other, representing Jesus as the head of our tribe, obviously, but like, but call each other out on our crap, like all these different things that like I think represents kind of what a tribe is like. And I love that you even saying like, hey, like I know what tethers me is my tribe, who points me back to Jesus. Yeah. And I think that's really awesome. Another thought that just came to mind actually was like going back to the inspirational thought question. When you're spending time with God, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through reading, like knowing that God is a creative himself, right? God is even a musician himself in creating everything he's created. Like, are there moments for you where you're like spending time with God and you're trying to have an intimacy moment with God, but you just get this really cool idea of a lyric or a dance movie because of your time with God? Are there moments like that where again, like you're trying to be focused, but like you just get so excited that you have to go like jot a thought down just so you don't forget it, or like just because of your interactions with God as your father and you're the created that you look to? Yeah,
that happens in two very unique ways. The first is during church service. It could be like Sunday morning or Bible study on Tuesday, or just like a random worship night. Those environments are like beacons of me, like either it's a phrase in the sermon or like a certain chord in the music just like inspires like fresh new lyrics, or they inspire like a cool melody or a cool song theme, and I'm like, and I pull out my phone and I like put it in my notepad. I'm like, I probably shouldn't be doing this in church, but I'm inspired right now, so I need to like take note of it for later. So that's like the first environment, and then the second environment is when I'm sitting in front of water, like a river or the ocean or a lake, usually makes me like thankful and prayerful and like introspective, and that is prime for inspiration.
I love that. And I think in a few minutes you'll kind of allude a little bit more to that through a song. So, but hey, what would you say? This is a fascinating question. I'd love to hear what you think about this. What are the redeemable qualities of the secular music industry that we need in the church? Kind of a weird question, maybe even a bold question.
That's a good question.
But what would you say to that?
Creativity. I would say so. That as well as vulnerability. And those two thoughts cater to two bigger points of sometimes we lack creativity in how we approach or offer our different forms of worship to God. And we lack the vulnerability sometimes in collective worship situations such as church or Bible study or a prayer meeting or et cetera, around other believers. It's very easy to be unwilling to be as raw and honest about how you feel or where you're at or your space with God. So that's something that's so easy and common in secular music, where a pop singer or a rapper or a rock band can easily just write a ballad about their breakup and just be like 1,000% vulnerable and open and raw, and will cry on stage or can't finish the record because that heartbreak is so real and so present. Whereas in some instances that I've experienced personally, it's almost frowned upon or filtered to not get that deep or that raw or that openly vulnerable. Like if you're expressive with your body, or if you're like crying out loud, or you fall to your knees, like those different expressions of worship that can come over people. It's like, oh, that's so charismatic, or like, oh, you're faking it, or oh, like, why are you doing that? Like, stop that. And it's like, well,
a distraction.
Yeah. And it's like, well, it might be a distraction to you, but you don't know what God just brought that person through, or that could be their way that they connect with God. Like that like assumption or judgment of, oh, like, don't get too creative because that might sound like the Satan's music, or it's just like, okay, like it's okay to play more than 4 chords.
Oh, yes.
Like, or like to do like a jazz groove instead of the typical rock CCM drum pattern that is so 2002. Like it's okay to like be creative and like do that for God's glory, instead of it just solely being, oh, I'm talented, I just want to do this because I've been doing it my whole life, or I'm just at this concert with this band. Like now you're not only being the person that God made you to be, but you're also doing it to glorify Him. How much more creative should you be? How much more vulnerable should you go? So that is something that I think that we can draw from the secular.
Dude, the amount of passion I'm getting from you now just is so good.
It is a hill that...
No, I love it because and you just hit 2 words that I think are so crucial for me as someone who works in a church to be able to know that, understand that more deeply, that creativity and vulnerability are needed, and maybe that's something that secular culture is getting a little bit more right than, dare I say, the church at times. Thank you for, I think that some people listening to this are completely like tracking with you, and they're like, yeah, like keep going, say it again. And there's some people who are kind of like, well, what you talking about? Like, and I think that both of those reactions, or anywhere in between, could be like, it is something to wrestle through, and like, okay, how do I do this with what I have in front of me, honoring with excellence, and again, not compromising, but I'm willing to not push boundaries, but again, I'm willing to live in the fullness of what God's given me and my talents and creativity and the vulnerability piece. I think is, bro, that's huge. Thank you for speaking into that. What would you say are some leadership lessons? Let's go leadership now. Lessons of what you've learned from the music industry. What comes to mind?
The first thing I think about is active listening, talking less and listening more. It's so easy to think that you know everything and it's your song, it's your brand, it's your whatever. So I'll just call the shots, and you people that are like associated with me just kind of fall in line and like follow my vision. When music and much of the creative product is more of a team collaborative experience. Like I need a producer, and I need a band player, and I need a person to mix and master it, and I need a person to publish it and market it and promote it. Like I can't do all those things myself, nor do I want to.
Right.
So like that concept of like, okay, there are things I don't know, and I want to hear from the people in their fields because they are the experts in those fields, and they can help me learn. But I can't learn if I'm doing all the talking. I can't learn if I'm not listening or valuing their insights. Yeah. So that's a quality of leadership that I've taken for granted, and I learned the hard way in some ways. Another quality in leadership, I would say, is realizing that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I have friends and I know people who I think are very intelligent and very talented, and they take a lot of pride in their smartness or their intelligence. And that has tempted me to approach a studio session or some type of environment with music and like kind of like saving face in some ways. It's like, oh, I know theory, or oh, I've done a song before, like you should do it this way, or like tune this note, when half the time I don't know, or I don't need to know, or like it's not that serious. Like I don't have to approach a situation like having it all together and having it all made. That's not realistic, and no one actually knows everything. So
wait, really?
So that's been a fun thing to learn. And to coincide with that, the third point I would make, taking care of those other people. So not being a diva and like, oh, well, I'm the artist, I'm the star, I'm the person that you've come to work with, like cater to all my needs. Like being the person that does want to be intentional and careful with how you're producing it and how it sounds and like timeline and deadlines and such, but also like knowing that my producer is not going to work for free. Like I need to pay him well, but also treat him with respect in terms of his time, his talents, his insight, like actually care about him as a person and not just like some producer or like some number or a person that has to help me and give me what I want. But instead, like, all right, we're two creatives, let's work together and let's make this thing like as a unit.
Yep. And
we both can benefit from it.
That's good.
Like it's not just all about me. And that's very humbling and not always easy to do, but
sure.
It's it is a necessary quality in that space.
Completely agree.
So those are probably the three big ones.
Yeah. No, I love that. And just to kind of run them back here, what I heard was the active listening piece of kind of being willing to talk less and listen more, to not have to be the smartest person in the room and feel like you always have to one up someone or know everything. And then that thirdly, just being willing to take care of people. I think that those are three. What's cool about that, Chris, is that those are three transferable principles to any avenue, form, lane of leadership or job or whatever. And so, and that's what I love about understanding like leadership principles is that they're not just like, sure, some are isolated, but like so many of them, like the ones you just mentioned, are not isolated. And any one of us can take those into our sphere of practice and influence. And so now, speaking of influence, the influence experiment is all about finding the art and science of building influential capacity. And so what would you say is some of the science, some of the objective truth in being a Christian in the music industry? And then what is some of the art, some of the subjective personal expression in being a Christian in the music industry?
That is such a hard question.
You're welcome.
I don't like hard questions. No, that's not true. I would say the objective truth in this context, for any musician that's a Christian, is that whether or not you're in the secular space or the CCM space, suffering will happen. And it's not like the type of suffering where it's like you lose something or you get sick or like in biblical times, like a neighboring country will come and sack your city. It's more of like, so example, if you're a secular artist that's Christian, all of the Christian artists like see you as a black sheep of like, why aren't you making this type of music and you're making pop music and you're going to bars and spaces that Christians shouldn't be in. And then on the flip side, if you're in the Christian music space, there's a lot of the like popularity games of like, oh, your song isn't Christian enough, or it's not theological enough, or you don't say Jesus enough.
The worst.
Or you can't even sing well.
Ooh, yep.
Or like you don't even like write your songs, and there's like a songwriter that's clearly writing heresy, and you still sing it. Like all of that, like catty, like extra Christianese that in general is very unhelpful and unbiblical to the church, but especially in the Christian music space, it can get very competitive and very dicey. So the concept of suffering, I would say, is that you are tempted to impress everyone or like please everyone and not step on any toes. But then your tool of music turns into you doing it for the approval of men and not for the glory of God. While doing it for God's glory does not divorce your accountability and responsibility to your neighbor, but also realizing that you can do good with having a high percentage of people that either don't agree, don't support, or just don't like you. And that's hard because as a creative and as an artist, like your thing, your product or your expression of art is a very personal exchange of like, here's a piece of me that I'm sharing with you in an artistic way. So by rejecting that thing, you're rejecting me as a person. At least that's what we're like, we default to think. So like that's rough because it's like, well, I'm sharing this to the world, which means I will be subject to hate. But it's really sucky when you're like trying to be a Christian in secular music and Christian artists or people are like, oh, that sucks, or oh, that's not Christian enough.
Yeah.
It's like, well, like I mean, I think I have the freedom and liberty to express myself because I'm talking about me and my life, and I am wrestling with how God has shown himself to me, while not being so isolated to my own lens of life, but also like you can't okay, imagine if someone went to David and they're like, hey, the way you play the harp, not complicated enough. You know, you need to add some more sevenths and some like minor chords and maybe sing a little. Like, because like I see that you're helping Saul, but it could be better, you know? And it's just like that's the type of like energy you deal with on both sides. But for me especially, and for other artists that are Christian making secular music, it's also that like environmental thing of, oh, in the secular space they don't care about like being gracious or loving or like the things that are valued by us Christians are not valued in the music industry. So kind of having to navigate the fact of like, oh, like I can't expect that and I don't deserve that per se either. Like I'm not that special. So that type of suffering can be, and that's probably like a micro level, but to me it's big because it's like, here's this thing that I'm trying to do in the space that I'm trying to do it, and here are my like principles and like passions and motives behind it, and then here's all this like bite back and like, no, we want you to fail, and they're not saying that, but their actions say it. Their lack of support, their bad advice, or just like condemning says it. And that can cause me to feel like, man, I'm enduring a lot of things that I didn't anticipate, but also like I don't even think should be happening. In some ways. And it then in turn makes it harder for me to like do it some days, or like
I can imagine.
Not give up. I mean, yeah.
No, I mean, and that's a very like real and raw thing to like say, where you say like it may seem like a minor thing, and sure, maybe some of us who maybe not feel that weight to that every day, but you feel that every day. Probably from Christians, from non-Christians, to people who are incredibly skilled to people who are not as skilled. Like so yeah, that's real, and that's a piece. And I think it is a good perspective to think about, even the idea of suffering, of like where you said like Christians going against Christians and non-Christians going against Christians and Christians against it's messy. And so no thanks. So thanks for speaking into that. And I'd love to ask you this question: Is there a song that you have produced that you are particularly proud of, and what are some of the redeemable themes or gospel nuances embedded in it?
Yeah, the song that comes to mind that I'm proud of all of my songs, which is so cheesy and corny, but it's true. But the one song that I look back on how that song was written, and what that song means, is Watercolor. And there's a lot of reasons for that. That song is very special to me.
I love that. Well, and you have graciously allowed us to take a snippet of that song right here that we're going to kind of be able to listen to it, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. So let's check out Watercolor right now.
Okay.
Every moment that I'm with you, everything becomes so clear, and I know that you are near. When you leave, I will miss you. similar to the sunrise. There's a wonder in your eyes. I saw you from a distance. I'm on the run again. It crashes with the waves. I feel it on my skin. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in. We can go wherever, far beyond the seven seas, as your head sways in the breeze. But can we stay together? I'll take you by the hand, leave footprints in the sands. I saw you from a distance. I'm on the run again. It crashes with the waves. I feel it on my skin. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in. I saw you from a distance. I'm on the run again. It crashes with the waves. I feel it on my skin. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in. I saw you from a distance. I'm on the run again. It crashes with the waves. I feel it on my skin. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in. You are an ocean, and I'm diving in.
Dude, I love it, bro. Thanks for sharing a little bit of that with us. Can you just give us a little bit more about that, right? Some of the lyrics behind it and where that again came from.
So first I'll say how that song was written and its inspiration. I was at a lake on like a weekend vacation, and again with water. Usually, if I'm sitting in front of water,
you mentioned that earlier, yeah,
reflective and whatever. So I was sitting there, and I was thinking about the different ways where I felt fearful or anxious, and God will make His presence very easily known to me through like creation, or I'll get reminded of like a scripture verse or a time in my life where I needed God, or I needed something, and it was easily and clearly God's hand that guided and made that happen. And then I got the inspiration to use the analogy or the metaphor, I'm not sure, of a newly formed dating relationship between a guy and a girl, or a surfer and the ocean, and compare it to my connection with God. So in the chorus, it says, I saw you from a distance, I'm on the run again, it crashes in the waves, I feel it in my skin. That's like the first half. And that whole picture of like a person being so excited to like run into the water and dive in and be completely surrounded by the ocean and by this feeling of freedom and comfort and peace. So in this case, I'm comparing the ocean to God and His presence in the way that it overwhelms me with this unspeakable joy and peace that I can't find anywhere else.
Come on, dude, that's so beautiful.
Yeah,
I love that, man. I love I'm sorry. I'm a little biased because like you my roommate and like one of my groomsmen, and also this is a good point to say that like Chris, dude, like I still like thank you so much for writing a song for Mary Beth and I on our wedding day and performing it. You can go and see that on Spotify. Also, by the way, just let's put the plug right now. How do you spell Macario so people can go look it up on
Macario, Mecario,
and you can be found on
Instagram. I'm gonna make a TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. I don't have Facebook anymore, but I'm gonna remake that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And music's on Spotify,
Apple, Amazon, Google, Tidal, Pandora, all the pretty much the streaming sites.
Yeah.
It's
Come
there.
on. Absolutely. Again, I'm a little biased, but guys, definitely, if you want to go and check out a Christian who's making music that inspires others to think more deeply about God in different in creative spaces, man, Chris's music, Macario, you should definitely go check it out. And so, man, help me with this one. Is we're starting to wrap up here, but like, what would you say? Like, what's the advice you would give to someone who is beginning to the pursuit of music, as well as the person who is feeling the tension of faithfully living to Jesus in the music industry?
I would say the person that is pursuing music, I would say that it'd be very good to know your motive and your purpose behind your, like, why are you making music and what do you hope to achieve in doing music? I think that is a very fundamental question for any artist or talent, because some people make music just for the money or fame or sex or popularity or what have you.
Yeah.
And they just see it as a business or just a cool opportunity to not be poor. But music is a medium and a tool and platform that can reach so many people so easily and so impactfully that a good artist would know that weight and pressure and have some type of motif behind why they are making music. So that would be my first advice, because that's what I spent all of college figuring out.
Sure.
And I think that's important, and that makes your product like more meaningful. And then as a Christian, in the secular or the Christian space of music, I would say surround yourself with talented people, even people that are more talented than you or that has the insight and wisdom that share a similar passion. I think that is very instrumental because you get like a model and a positive example of someone that has been there before you or that is doing it alongside you or that just has the insight to help you think through things a bit more clearly and intentionally. But also I would say to not be isolated or to pursue it on an island. Like you need your tribe. You need people in your life that know you and love you outside of you being an artist.
Yep.
And then can hold you to a higher or bigger purpose. In this case, Christ. If it's not Christ, I don't know how you're gonna really go about that. I think knowing Jesus and his church is a great stronghold against the different vices that the music industry glorifies. So as the Christian that is pursuing music, like having your tribe and then also pursuing industry people that share a similar passion and purpose would be good starting points.
Yeah. No, that's so good. What would you say as just as someone who's inundated and just so embedded into music culture and Christian culture, secular culture of music? Who are some Christian artists that you would recommend people to listen to that even embody living as a Jesus follower in the secular world? Who are some of those artists?
So many. Tori Kelly, Lecrae, John Bellion, Carrie Underwood, Ryan Tedder, amazing songwriter and lead vocalist of One Republic. Then you have Andy Mineo and Chris Tomlin is phenomenal. Elevation Worship, Torrin Wells, KB, amazing.
Yeah.
There's so many examples of people either in Christian music or in secular.
Yeah. No, it's a
They're
great.
out there.
That's a great list. That's a great list to go and peruse some of their musical selections. So thanks for that. Even just dropping some bands down for people maybe to go check out.
Yeah.
So hey, as we kind of land the plane of this whole conversation of being a Christian in the music industry, leadership principles that we can learn from secular culture, what's the art and the science to all these different things, right? We've kind of collaborated over a lot. How would you say, as we finish this off, is there any final words of wisdom, insights, knowledge, tips, whatever it may be, that you would love to give to our viewers and listeners?
I would say be mindful of the way that you connect and interact with your artistic or musical neighbor. And be willing to have a open mind and heart on how they view the world and how they use their art to connect with other people. And don't assume the worst or too much or just make predetermined judgments, but instead look to have conversation and discourse and seek to learn and understand more than correct and like reprimand.
Sure.
Having that grace is very helpful and would mean the world personally. But also, I think on another note, music is a tool and a platform that does not have inherent morality or ethic. But the way that it's used, more so the person that is using it, and their motive is what is put under fire or in question. And I think that once you know or agree with that, then you can, we can kind of get less or more away from this concept of like, well, here's secular music and here's Christian music and this is obviously godly and that's obviously not. And more to, okay, like, how is this person using this tool to connect with other people? Are they glorifying violence and drug culture, or are they using a different way to talk about love and marriage? That's not exactly like Song of Solomon or something like more Christianese. Like just having grace for both sides, but also like not being so fundamental with the art of music in general.
Yeah.
God made music, and music is a tool. It's something that we get the liberty to use either for God's glory or for the gain and glory of ourselves. And that responsibility and accountability falls on the user, not the tool.
Yeah.
And that is an important point that we as Christians sometimes lose sight of. So that would be my thought.
Yeah.
My humble opinion.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really fantastic way to kind of conclude with the humble opinion that it's not so much the tool, but more the user. And how are we choosing to use the tool either to build the kingdom of God or to build the kingdom of self?
Yeah.
We all have that choice. No matter what profession, no matter what talent, no matter what personality, we all have that choice. And Chris, what's so encouraging, affirming for me is that I get to sit across from you being one of my best friends, and I get to see how you've taken the tool of music and you've used it to prop up God and to encourage other believers and be an influencer for Jesus in the secular sphere and public square. And for me, bro, I'm just so proud of you. And I just want you to know that I love you, man, and I'm so encouraged by that. And to be able to say that, God needs God to be able to, yes, people in ministry are needed, but yes, people in this quote unquote secular space are absolutely needed as well. And though God doesn't need us, He delights in using us in our spaces. And so, thank you for being someone who's trying to be faithful with the talents you have in the music sector, because it's deeply needed. And so, bro, just thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us, sharing your heart, being vulnerable, showing your creativity, and being able to model that to us here. And hopefully we can walk away with some principles extracted here to kind of take into our lanes of leadership and become better Jesus followers again, not for our glory, but for God's. And so thank you for kind of being here and helping model that to us.
Thank you, Tony. I love that you said trying, because I'm trying, but I'm not doing it alone, and I'm so glad that God's grace has afforded me this far. So
By the grace of God,
with His help and my tribe, I will keep on keeping on.
I love that.
So
His help, my tribe, I'll keep on keeping on. Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if you have enjoyed listening to this and you are liking what you're hearing, man, would you be willing to go and give us a rating, hit the share button wherever you consume the content? We're also going to put Chris's, some of his Instagram and some of his Spotify stuff up in the links in our bios, and so you're welcome to go check that as well. So we hope that you'll join us next time as we continue to explore the art and science of building influential capacity. Catch you next time.